Hey guys. All right. So I just want to talk a little bit about some thoughts I have about morality. So I'm going to start out just with a few questions that you can pose to yourself and answer. So bacteria. We have bacteria that we call good bacteria, right, in our guts, and we have bad bacteria that can cause illness. Bacterial infections, pneumonias can kill you. So we call the good bacteria that's beneficial good and stuff like that. We, you know, but is it morally bad or morally good what this bacteria or virus is doing? Of course not. The bacteria and the virus is just doing what it's doing. Probably not aware that you know, you're a living entity. You're its globe, its world, its planet, right? Things like that. So in my opinion, no, bacteria and viruses are not morally good or bad. It's just its nature. The same, I guess, we could ask about the animal kingdom, right? When a predator runs after prey and eats it alive, and plays with it sometimes, it's not even a quick kill. Are these predators morally right or wrong? Or is it just animal instinct and it's just the way those predators are designed, or whatever you want to call it? It's just the way they're made, you know? And you can go down all these horrible things that animals do. I mean, somebody had studied penguins. Penguins are horrible. Penguins can cannibalize themselves. They rape themselves. The some horrible behaviors. Um, the claim that our closest ancestors that we came from monkeys and primates. Well, if you look at monkeys and primates, though some of them are vegetarians or frugivores, they will sometimes cannibalize their species. They will viciously go and attack another clan of gorillas. Animals force themselves sexually on females. So, in the animal kingdom, I want you to ask yourself, and please write the response in the comments. Is this morally right or wrong? Or is it not even a question of morality when we're talking about bacteria and the animal kingdom? Because when it comes to humans, atheists will say that we're just animals. We're just part of the animal kingdom. We have bigger brains than animals, and we have a higher level of consciousness. Some will say, and I completely agree, but we're just animals. So if somebody is basing their worldview on evolution, that nothing created everything with really no purpose, that billions of years went by, just random chance, natural selection, and you know uh, the the strong eating the weak, all of that stuff. If nothing created everything, and we come from pond scum, basically, from Campbell soup's primordial soup that wasn't even conscious of itself. There was no conscious awareness. This molecular soup eventually formed these very simple life forms. So we're bacteria, and in a way we're no different than fish or other animals, or our great 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 grandfather, who's an orangutan. Maybe we have a family member stuck in the zoo. Who knows? It's a scary thought. So if you look at that, then why is anything we do objectively morally right or wrong? We're just animals. And it's funny, like, for example, via veganism, they will equate killing animals for food, because we require animal food. They'll say that that is morally wrong, right? And they'll equate it and say, you know what, we're animals too, and when you kill an animal, it's like killing a human. It's the same moral sin. But then when you tell them, well, if we're just animals, then why can't we eat animals just like other animals? If we're just pond scum, if we just made it further along on the evolutionary ladder, but really, where's meaning? The closest thing you can come to the question meaning of life, besides preference, opinions, and stuff like that, I guess in a meaningless, purposeless universe, I guess the meaning of life is to find your own individual meaning. I think that, jog my memory here, like write down your comments if you think that it's not making any sense what I'm saying. So now I come to the question, which is the title: Can an atheist be moral without God? Yes. Non-believing, godless people, atheists that don't believe in God can be moral. But the problem is that they cannot philosophically justify morality itself because they don't believe in objective truth. They don't believe in any objective meaning or purpose to life itself. They just believe that we came here from the Big Bang, and when we die, we cease to exist, right? So in this thing, man is not above the animal kingdom. Man is from a Christian perspective, man is made in the image of God. And God has written and infused our being with his image. And part of that image is his moral law written on our hearts and expressed through our conscience. Okay? So we don't develop a conscience when when we believe in God. All of a sudden our conscience starts working. Of course not. We all have a conscience. And atheists and non-believers, though they can't explain why murdering another person is bad, raping another person is bad, eating another person is bad, and all of these moral claims that they make, at the same time saying that there's no objective morality, that morality is relative. I've heard that, well, society decides what is moral. And so here's a passage that explains why I can easily say that, of course, non-believers can be moral. That's fact. That's truth. That is not my opinion. That is an objective truth. If we look at Romans 2, I'll start from 12, but we're actually concentrating on 14 and 15. It says, all who sin apart from the law will also perish apart from the law. All right, so don't forget, those who sin, okay, apart from the law, so you don't know the law, but you're sinning, you're going to perish, okay? And that has nothing to do with the law. And all who sin under the law, people, Jews and Christian, they'll be judged by the law. And notice here also, what happens to them? Are they tortured eternally? No. You'll see all throughout the Bible, that's not supported. They're going to perish. That means cease to exist, to be annihilated. So, for it is not those who hear the law who are righteous in God's sight, but it is those who obey the law who will be declared righteousness. Indeed, when Gentiles are just not non-Jews, basically. It's what the Jewish nation called the outside nations and cultures and people. So I'm gonna replace that and say when an atheist. So indeed, when atheists who do not have the law do by nature things required by the law, they are a law for themselves. Even though they do not have the law, they show that the requirements of the law are written on their hearts, and their consciences also bear witness. and their thoughts sometimes accusing them, and other times even defending them. And this will take place, the judgment of those apart from the law, those under the law. This will take place on the day when God judges people's secrets through Jesus Christ, as my gospel declares. So what 14 and 15 is saying is that, you know what? Atheists may not believe in a moral lawgiver and cannot philosophically explain why we do why things are right and wrong morally, good and evil morally. They'll make these claims, but philosophically they have nothing to stand on. Because if you're saying that there's no purpose or real meaning to the universe, when you say that we are further along the evolutionary chain, but we're no different from the molecular soup, heck, at least, if you don't want to, say that we're like the soup, well, we're like the monkeys, right? Right? Our great, 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 great grandma and, and grandpa are monkeys. I mean, technically, there might be, somebody in your lineage that is locked up in a zoo at this present moment. Scary thought, I know. So the question is, can an atheist be moral without God? Yes, an atheist can be moral. Because we are in the image of God, we have his, to a certain extent, as flawed as it is, we have empathy, we have compassion, we have all of these virtues, forgiveness, courage, patience, understanding, long suffering, all of these things, atheist and Christian and anybody else, we can all sit there and understand, and we can rationalize and we can give reasons why it's good, why it's bad, but morally they cannot, because their worldview rejects objective morality, and they reject that there's even a designer that has designed this world, that there is no one to be held, there's no one to be held accountable to. We have this life, we have to find our own meaning. Really, it was just a weird, interesting thing that happened. Everything exploded, nothing exploded into everything. Find your own meaning at the best, and there's no real meaning to the future, and eventually the universe will implode or whatever, and then we'll cease to exist. So there's no purpose in the future. We're all going to die. So why don't, and this leads to like, well, why don't I just, have as much pleasure as I can? That's the purpose. It's just the pursuit of happiness. Hedonistic pleasures, fill it up until the day you die. What do they say? Eat and be merry, for tomorrow we die. I don't know. I'm completely slaughtering that phrase, but you get the point. Go through just the 10 Commandments before we stop this video. What I'd like to do is this is a little bit of a introduction to a series of videos that I'd like to make on a debate between an atheist and a Christian. So here are the 10 Commandments. So the 10 Commandments were written by God on 2 tablets of stone and then given to Moses on Mount Sinai. The record of the 10 Commandments can be found in the Bible, both in Exodus and Deuteronomy. So as a Christian, I do believe that these moral laws were written. They had a purpose, and these moral laws were a guide and a way of having people suppress their evil inclination by concentrating on these 10 rules, these 10 laws. Now, when Christ came, he opened the door to a true relationship with God. And by opening the door, we receive the Holy Spirit through Christ's work here on earth, his atoning sacrifice. And then the Holy Spirit gives us a new heart, renews our mind. And that's the work of the Holy Spirit. So that we're no longer just trying to suppress our evil inclination and following these rules because we're scared of punishment, but that we have a true transformation. But until then, the law was actually made to show people that their evil inclinations, that they're sinful, that they cannot even follow these 10 commandments. And these 10 commandments are what the penalty of sin is death. That's what it's considered. And I want us, you, me, just, privately, you and between you and God. But let's go through and see how many commandments you've broken. And I'll tell you how many I've broken, and you don't even have to tell me, I'll tell you. You shall have no other gods before me, right? So if you do not believe in the true God, then you can just naturally form a God in your mind. So if you don't believe in the true God, you can have your form of God, and that form is most likely going to be made very close to your image and not the image of God. Let's go to the second one. You shall make no idols. Now, idols are not just like, these statues and stuff like that people pray and bow to. Anything that you use instead of God, okay? Something that you use instead of having a relationship with God. Alcohol to deal with life instead of God, drugs, pornography, recognition, fame, all of these things that you put your time, your effort, and becomes you serve, because we can serve our desires. And when we serve our desires, without any restraint, we serve our animalistic based desires, right? We are creating an idol. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. So, especially in the Western culture, Jesus Christ, God damn it. People say that all the time. In Quebec here, all of the swear words are Christian. So tabarnak, esti tabarnak de calice. Esti is the host that the Catholics use. So esti calice, calice is the chalice. Esti calice, the tabarnak is tabernacle. Esti calice the tabarnak. Yeah. Anyways, so yeah. So that think of your mom. Every time something pisses you off, every time you're disgusted with something, you start using your mom's name. Fucking darling. No, you wouldn't do that. No one would do that. But have you ever used God's name in vain, in disgust, in frustration, in hatred? Keep the Sabbath day holy. The Sabbath day is the last day, which is Saturday. I still acknowledge the Sabbath day because it's part of the 10 Commandments. In Christianity, it says every day is holy. It also speaks that we've entered God's rest through Christ, and he is our Sabbath. Therefore, the Saturday is merely a symbolic representation of the true peace and rest, which is Christ is our Sabbath. Every day is holy, they say. So Christians, they go to church on Sunday. They're not claiming it's a Sabbath. But me individually, I like to acknowledge on Saturday God's work and my gratitude for it, and the Sabbath. Honor your father and your mother. Have you ever lied? Have you ever been rude to your parents? See, it's very important, the 10 Commandments, this command along with all of the other ones. Honor your father and your mother. Because if you cannot honor your father and your mother, that in a way created you, gives you life, protects you, really in a way where God has given parents this responsibility, and we are like mini tiny expressions of the relationship that God wants. So becoming a mother and father brings you closer to understanding God. People always say, it's not the same when it's your kids, and it's true. You really, I wouldn't say it brings you closer to God to have children, but it is extremely useful if you understand that God is our parent, and that we should emulate that in our parenting, and that a child should submit, obey the person who has given them life, who protects them, who loves them, who feeds them and gives them sustenance, all of these. You shall not murder. All right. That's a good law. And again, atheists, I agree that morally they know it's wrong. It's just that they cannot philosophically, because they don't believe in a moral lawgiver, and they think everything's relative, and they think that there's your truth and my truth. So there's no objective reality, and we've seen that when we reject God and his objective truth, his objective morality, then everything becomes your truth and my truth. We think it's progress what we've done in the West. We've completely turned our back, and we've become not a Christian nation, but atheistic nation. We've turned our backs on God, and now what do we see? Narcissism, pride, egoism, self-worship, raising ourselves as if we are the deciders of good and evil, right? So that's why everybody has their truth now. And because of that, it's like there's a lot of untruth that's being, accepted. Look at our culture. Redefining objective truth, biology. Biology is no longer an objective truth. It's a spectrum, right? It's okay for adult entertainment like drag queens to invite families and children and perform in front of them in sometimes very sexually provocative ways, because our society says that that's moral and that's progress. Sexual liberation. There's nothing morally wrong with pornography. People that are doing it, they want to do it, but that's not true. To a certain extent, there's a lot of human trafficking in pornography. But you know what? I'm not hurting anybody between me, the tissue, and the computer, right? So there's no moral lawgiver. Those rules are just relative in their opinions. And so you shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet. Have you ever been jealous? I have. Have you ever lied? Your neighbor doesn't mean the guy who lives across the street. Anybody adjacent to you is your neighbor. Have you ever lied about somebody? You ever steal something? Doesn't matter how big it is. Some people cheat on their wives. Jesus takes it one step further and says, it says in the law that you shall not commit adultery, but if you lust after another person when you're in a committed marriage, which marriage shouldn't be a committed marriage. Marriage is a commitment. Sorry. He says that even if you lust in your fantasies and your desires after another person without actually doing it, you're committing adultery in your heart. Jesus took it at another level. You shall not steal. right? Honor your mother and father. Have you ever, been just, a little bit rude, lying to your parents, saying stuff, whatever? You shall not take the name of your God. Have you ever cussed in disgust, used, God's name? Have you ever put anything in between you and God? Have you used things in this world, substances or certain behaviors, certain activities? Okay. And have you put your time, devotion, have you used that as a crutch? Those are idols. Idols are not just statues. Idol is anything that you put between you and God. And it's very similar to you shall have no other God before me. Gods, right? This is the moral law. And Jesus goes one step further. So Jesus, the Pharisees are asking him, but when the Pharisees had heard that they had put the Sadducees to silence, they were gathered together. Then one of them, which was a lawyer, asked him a question, tempting him and saying, Master, to Jesus, which is the greatest commandment in the law? Jesus said unto him, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like unto it. You shall love your neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the laws and the prophets. So Jesus sums up the law by breaking it into two groups. First, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. And when we look at the first four commandments, if you follow that law, you shall accomplish this one, right? This one, this one, and this one. That's the first one is accomplished. And the other six are accomplished with the last six laws. Thou shalt love your neighbor as thyself. And that's the last six. So loving others, right? Treating others the way you treat yourself, loving them, honoring your father and mother is love. A child that grows up that cannot honor his mother and father is somebody who have a lot harder time submitting to God as an adult. Trust me. You shall not murder. That's treating others, right? You don't want to be murdered. You wouldn't want to be cheated on. You don't want people to steal stuff from you. You don't want people spreading false rumors about you. And you know what? If you're coveting somebody else's whatever, you're being jealous, then you really, you don't love them. You're self-seeking and you're thinking about me, 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 me. So have we gone through everything that I wanted to go through? Just in a quick thing, it's yes. So in conclusions, atheists can be moral because we are made in the image of God, whether we like it or not, whether we know it or not. We're made in the image of God, and therefore his qualities, okay, are imprinted onto our heart. That is that little whisper, that conscience that you can actually refine and polish up that consciousness so it's laser, or you can do things that are against God's laws, earthly, living a hedonistic life, running after sense pleasure. You could do that. Drugs, alcohol. You could go against your consciousness, and eventually that consciousness becomes corrupted too. In a way, corrupting, the image of God. So because we have that, like Romans that we read verse 14 and 15, yes. The problem is that an atheist, like I've said, and I'm going to stop here, an atheist rejecting God has no claim on objective morality. claiming that nothing came from everything and that we're just animals, we're no different than animals. Yet then after putting standards onto us that you don't put onto other animals, shows that we truly in our hearts don't believe that. We don't know why we know rape is wrong, but we know it's wrong. And saying that culture decides, the majority, the cultures decide what morality is, right? So in Roman times, let's say Spartans, their culture used to throw deformed babies, and them as a culture, as a society, they believed that there was nothing wrong with doing that. There's cultures that are cannibals and hunt down other humans and eat them. Their culture believes that it's completely fine, that it's moral. So when humans take morality into their own hands, things get really, really dark, really, really fast. And the fallen human nature and our darkened hearts that need to be, renewed through Christ, we will justify all sorts of horrible actions the minute that we turn away from God. God knows and demands us to worship him because he knows our nature, that we are worshiping animals. We are beings that worship. And if you don't worship the true God, you will worship your passions. You will worship money. You will worship power, recognition, fame. You will put your while rejecting God and rejecting objective morality, you will still say that you know what is morally right and wrong. You'll be able to say it's wrong to do this and it's not wrong to do that, but you've rejected objective morality. So you have no philosophical stance to justify that. What do you guys think?